3 years ago, a terrifying creature appeared from the sky and destroyed almost all of humanity. The only way to stay safe from these monsters is by staying above 8,000 feet in the mountains. Now, in the aftermath, only a small group of survivors remains, hiding in the lost canyon of the Rocky Mountains. Will, a single father, does everything he can to protect his son Hunter. However, the mountain feels like a prison, especially since Hunter is the only child left in the world. The survivors are warned never to go beyond the white line marking the safe zone, as the monsters attack anyone who crosses it. One morning, Will hears a gunshot from the house next door. He checks the window and sees the woman next door firing her gun. Just as he's about to investigate, he hears Hunter struggling to breathe in the bedroom. Will rushes to help. Hunter is sick, and without air filters, his condition worsens. Will realizes he must go down the mountain to find medical supplies, but it's Hunter's birthday. Will visits the small store on the mountain, trading a battery for mac and cheese. Hunter is happy with the gift, but soon notices Will has turned off the radio. Will explains that they need to save power. Later, Will's friend KY arrives with 2 bottles of alcohol. The two drink together, reminiscing about their lives before the disaster. Meanwhile, the woman next door continues to shoot her gun. After saying goodbye to KY, Will begins planning his trip. Suddenly, Hunter's breathing gets worse. With no air filters left, Will injects Hunter with medicine, then finishes getting ready. He knows he has no choice but to go down the mountain. Will goes next door to ask for help. The woman, Nina, isn't crazy like everyone thinks. She's a scientist. Though the government claims the monsters are invincible, Nina is researching ways to fight back. Will explains that if he doesn't go to Boulder Hospital for the filter, Hunter will die.
Hunter's a machine. Last filter burnt out. The hospital in Boulder will have a crate of them, but if I don't go, Hunter dies.
Nina is the only one who survived a trip down the mountain, so he asks her for help. However, Nina refuses, believing her survival was just luck. Will insists. He knows the mountain and its tunnels well. "I have a safe route," he says. "I just need your help." After a brief pause, Nina reluctantly agrees to join him. Before they leave, Will arranges for Hunter to stay with a trustworthy neighbor. When Katie finds out Will is going alone, she's furious. She doesn't want him to risk his life without help. After losing her friend Tara, she can't bear to lose Will too. Eventually, Will agrees to take Katie and Nina with him. They decide to head for the Altar Ski Resort, where there might be a backup generator. If they're lucky, they can restart the ski lift to get closer to safety. Nina has an electromagnetic device she made, similar to a compass, which can detect the magnetic field of the monsters. It will beep whenever the creatures are nearby. With the device leading the way, they cross the boundary into dangerous territory. Along the way, they find abandoned cars. Will searches them and discovers some ammunition, including a grenade launcher. Nina and Katie don't get along and nearly fight, but Will steps in to stop them. The journey is proving to be more difficult than they thought. As they continue through the forest, they spot a herd of wild horses, thriving without human interference. The group reaches the ski resort only 10 to 15 minutes away from the highest safe zone. But suddenly, the magnetic field fluctuates wildly, and the monsters are closing in. They decide to take a chance and use the ski lift to escape. Nina and Katie stand guard, while Will works to power up the lift. The monsters are getting closer by the second. Katie fires a grenade, knocking over trees, but it only slows the monsters. Will finally manages to start the lift, and he pulls Katie onto it. The lift begins moving upward, but suddenly the cable snaps under the monster's attack, sending them all tumbling to the ground. They quickly scramble to their feet and continue running. After a tense sprint, they reach the safe zone just in time. That night, they rest at the ski resort, now safe. Katie is shaken, realizing how dangerous it is to face the monsters directly. She never thought they would be forced to confront them. These creatures wiped out 95% of the world's population. And what's even worse is that the monsters don't eat or sleep. They exist solely to hunt and exterminate humans. The next morning, the trio reaches the entrance of a mine. Nina is worried that if they leave when it gets dark, they'll be trapped. Will reassures her, saying there's a forest protection station nearby where they can rest. They just need to pass through tunnel number 8 to get to Boulder Hospital.
This is level 9. We exit at 8,023 feet on the other side.
However, Nina is uneasy. She realizes that the tunnel will pass through areas below the safe zone, putting them at risk of encountering the monsters. Will insists they go ahead, knowing the route well. Still, Nina warns that her electromagnetic compass won't work underground, and the monsters can detect their breath from miles away. They're taking a huge risk, but they have no choice. They enter tunnel number 7, which is even lower than tunnel 8. Will knows this is a dangerous decision, but he refuses to give up. They descend into the dark tunnel slowly, trying not to make noise. Suddenly, Katie hears strange sounds, but Will tells her to turn off her headlamp. They see a red light in the distance, and immediately they start running. But a monster appears before them. Luckily, a mining machine temporarily blocks the creature. Will takes the opportunity to fire at it, bringing it down. The group hides in a small crevice, trying to stay quiet. But the monsters are closing in. Nina and Katie turn off their headlamps and hold their breath. The creatures are searching for them. Will throws a signaling device to distract the monsters, giving the group a chance to escape. They crawl through a narrow gap in the rocks to safety. However, as they're escaping, Katie is grabbed by a monster and pulled away. Will tries to save her, but he's too late. The group realizes they can't keep going through the tunnel. Fortunately, Nina finds a ladder leading to tunnel number 8, and they climb up to safety. They reach the forest protection station just before sunset. Will and Nina search for food and find cans of pasta, reminding Will of Hunter. He remembers how Hunter loved macaroni and cheese before everything changed. The memory fills him with regret. They continue their search and come up with a plan to fight the monsters. Will talks about a theory Hunter once had, that the monster's scales are resistant to electricity. If they can generate an explosion, they might be able to destroy the monsters. It's just a theory, but they decide to try it. At Boulder Hospital, Will and Nina search for the air filter. They find it in a drawer, but just as they do, the monster attacks. Tentacles burst through the walls, forcing them to run. Nina uses a fire axe to sever the tentacle that grabs Will, and they rush into a nearby room. Will quickly prepares gas canisters while Nina tries to create smoke to block the monster's vision. They aren't sure if the monster is dead, but they decide they have to leave quickly. After escaping, Nina wants to go to the laboratory to collect more samples, but Will insists they go back to Hunter. Nina convinces him that they need to find a way to defend against the monsters. Without it, the world will never be safe again. As they leave the hospital, the monster that had been knocked down wakes up and continues chasing them. They press on and make their way to the Boulder National Museum. Nina's compass shows no sign of disturbance when they arrive. Nina needs a few minutes to prepare, so Will keeps watch. Will finds a family photo in Nina's office, reminding him of all she's lost. After the disaster, Nina focused on researching a way to stop the monsters. She worked even when it was her day off, and now everything she's known is gone. Nina continues experimenting, coating bullets with a special compound. Will decides to leave to go back to Hunter, but Nina stays behind to keep trying. She believes that if she succeeds, she can help defeat the monsters. Will, though heartbroken, can't risk his son's life, so he drives ahead. On the road, Will's car crashes. Trapped between two monsters, Will struggles to escape. Just then, Nina's new method works. She coats the bullets and kills a monster instantly. They've found a way to fight back. Will and Nina realize that the monsters are mechanical and programmed to never go beyond 8,000 feet. They return to the shelter and Hunter runs to meet them. Nina signals to the surrounding bases, letting them know they've found a way to kill the monsters. Other groups begin preparing to fight back. The story ends with the sound of explosions echoing in the distance. Thanks for watching. For more recaps, please like and subscribe. See you in the next one.